Okay, good morning. Hello. Welcome everyone to another live chat discussion here on NextOppSocial. As always, I am Richelle Wright Wilson and joined by Joanne Buford. And today we are excited to introduce Katrina Mitchell. Katrina is the founder and CEO of Katrina Michele Creative, which is a boutique marketing and small business consulting firm that provides success strategies, one-on-one coaching, and marketing services for creative entrepreneurs and business professionals. She's got over 25 years of administrative, sales, marketing, management experience, and she's put all that excellence into helping position entrepreneurs to build businesses that stand out amongst the competition. So before we jump in and chatting more with Katrina, because we're very excited, as always, if you're watching with us here, either live or on the replay, hit that subscribe button below so that you never miss an interview, a live, or any of the incredible discussions we have here at NextOppSocial. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome, Katrina. Thank you again for joining us here today. We're very excited to have you and talk about your journey. So we're going to jump into it. Let's tell us more about yourself, your background, and because we are about entrepreneurship here, what caused you to fall in love with being an entrepreneur?
Okay. Well, thank you both for having me. I'm excited to be here as well. Um, so I am a serial entrepreneur. I was thinking about it earlier. I think I came out of the womb wanting to be an entrepreneur when I was a little girl. I play with Barbies. I always owned the house. I owned the dance studio. I was just that kind of kid. Um, but I fell in love with being an entrepreneur probably right out of college when I realized that I was probably more unemployable than I needed to be, considering my parents had just paid for a college degree. And I was like, I don't like being told what to do. So my first business was actually a gift basket business, and that was in 1992, right after college. And from that point forward, I've found a way to kind of work a 9 to 5 and monetize hustles on the side. I always felt that if God is giving me a gift, He must have given it to me to make some money with it. So I've always had some type of a side gig, um, and those side gigs led into me helping and supporting other entrepreneurs. And one time I reached my hand out to a woman who owned a day spa and asked her if I could support her as her operations manager because I had management experience and working in corporate. And she said, sure, you can come on as my operations manager. And I worked for her as the operations manager for 4 years, and then I bought the company.
Wow.
So, um, and so I also own Fundamentals Relaxation Spa. We've been in business 20 years. I've been the owner for the last 12. And so it's just been a long, fascinating journey of me just really getting a feel for really my giftings and my abilities and who God has created me to be and how I'm supposed to help other people grow.
Incredible. So, I got to unpack some of this, right? Because you shared some. Yes, yes.
Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. So, I love the fact that, it takes some tenacity to do what you did, right? You have these operation skills, and you were literally going out and you were contacting business owners and saying, look, I have these skills. I want to help you. What does that conversation sound like? Because you have a lot of people who are trying to transition into that business consulting and offering operation services and et cetera, and they're
Mhm.
stuck because they don't know what language to use, what type of approach. What did that sound like for you? What did that look like?
It was really a um, hey, here are these skills that I have, and I see that you're struggling. So
Mm,
how can we make this a win-win? I need the experience. I want to be able to help you and support you. And it was just that simple. Like, I need something from you. You need something from me. And at that point, I needed an additional source of income. And
mm,
um, I am a licensed massage therapist. So I had gotten this massage therapy certification, wasn't really doing anything with it. A friend of mine, actually my boyfriend, was like, hey, why did you get this degree and not do anything certification, not do anything with it? And I was like, I don't know. And he said, well, don't you know someone that owns a spa? And I was like, oh yeah. And that's how the conversation started with, well,
Yes.
let me get into the industry that I know, that will kind of get me along my path.
Yeah.
But the overall conversation of the transitioning of the skills was really, I know these skills have to be transferable.
Hmm.
And I know that there are other people that can utilize them. Let me just have the conversation. All they can do is say no.
Right.
You know?
Now, here's the thing, because business owners, it's not like they put out on their awnings or they put out on Facebook or back then, right? It wasn't Facebook classifieds.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, everybody, I'm struggling. Come be of service to me.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
exactly work that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what did you do to identify that prospect? I mean, did you like, I remember I used to do drive-bys on businesses where I'd literally get out my car, I'd walk in, I would sit in the lobby and I would sit and watch. And they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even know what I was doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I would talk to the receptionist, I would talk to the administrators, I would have conversations with them, and based on the responses they gave me, I could tell whether or not things were being done right. What did your process look like to identify prospects?
It was very similar. Of course, I started with my warm market with people that I knew. One of my first clients as a consultant was a t-shirt company. And we went to church together, and she had a really cute t-shirt. And I said, oh, I like your shirt. It's really nice. And she says, oh, I sell t-shirts. I said, really? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, how do you sell them? What do you do? She's like, oh, they're in the trunk of my car. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
we can't do that. And so, um, and that became my first client because I said, okay, this is what I do. And I'm going to help you because my goal is to make people always operate in excellence. I feel that there's too many resources available for us to have to do things. So let me help you elevate. And so, um, again, I'm not afraid to open up my mouth because I'm confident in what I can do, and I'm also confident in what that the things I don't know how to do or things I don't know well. But I always have a circle of people I can tap into.
Right.
So but I just again, I have the conversation. I, like you said, I look to see where the holes are because
Hmm.
I am masterful around operations, and sales and marketing. I can look at any business and determine where the holes are. So then I know the conversations to have. So like you said, they may not know that I'm looking at their customer service, or I'm looking at how they're speaking to their staff, or how they're answering the phones, what
Hmm.
processing paperwork do they have. I'm looking at all those things because that's how my brain clicks.
Yep.
So when I see the holes, then I can approach and say, hey, I see that you're not doing X, Y, and Z. What is your process around this? And generally they don't have, an answer, or
Hmm.
there are holes, and then I stick myself in those holes.
I got it. So I can't let this go, right? Because I mean, I love it, man. Accomplished entrepreneurs like yourself, always so humble. Fundamentals was the first African American day spa and
Yes.
the oldest African American day spa in the state of Michigan. That's a big deal. You grab the baton, continue to build it into I mean, it's at this point, it's an iconic business. Like, you can't be in Ferndale and people not know who you are.
Thank you.
And quite frankly, you can't really be in Detroit. Like, everyone knows fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
And so, I have a couple questions. Number one,
Okay.
you're working there, you're helping to build the business. But the two questions I have is this, right? Number one, what did that process look like? And of course, I don't expect you to divulge trade secrets in terms of the numbers and whatnot, but what did the process look like? How do you go from I'm the CEO of this business to I'm going to own this business, right? What does that conversation sound like with the owner? What does that look like? And then number two, you were kind of like LeBron James following Kobe, right? LeBron went to
Yeah.
LA, falling into that legacy that Kobe Bryant left. You had a huge legacy to take
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and you just took the bull by the horns and crushed it. But I know there had to be some consternation, some fear, a little bit of anxiety because you're stepping into somebody else's shadow to
For
kind
sure.
of create your own, right? Your
Hmm.
own legacy, your own name. Talk to us a little bit about that. What does that process look like from beginning? I'm going to get this business to transition. It's my business now.
Yeah, that was a journey, for sure. So your first question was, what's the conversation of, hey, I'm gonna, I'm running your business to now I'm gonna buy your business. Um, Actually, she approached me,
Mm.
and so interestingly, I was, like I said, I was fundamentally unemployable. So I'm working for her, but I was miserable, miserable. And a good friend of mine said, well, you're complaining about it every day. You're unhappy. Why don't you just buy the company? And I was like, how do you even do that? Like, I don't know how to do that. She's like, you're already running it. You can just buy it. And I said, okay, right, whatever. And then probably maybe a month later, the owner came to me and said, I'm selling
Mm.
and I want to sell it to you. And because the seed was already planted, I said, sure. And she looked at me like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. And so I was not ready. I was scared, but my thought was, okay, you're already in the day-to-day operations. How much harder can it be? So I thought. Um, but being a CEO and a COO is totally different than you actually signing paychecks, making decisions, feeding families. That's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just, I because I was pivotal in building the foundation. So again, we started in 2000. I came on board in 2003. That was before Facebook, before email marketing. So I developed all of those processes and procedures. I developed the handbook. So all of that core I developed. So it was technically, that was my vision already, it built into the company. So
Mm-hmm.
that made that part a little easier. I was grateful that most of the staff, I had hired most of the staff because again, that was my role. So I came in with this ready built machine, um, built on a very strong foundation with a huge reputation in the community. So I was buying an asset. And that was
Yes.
and that was my thing. It had to be um, a viable asset. I couldn't just buy it because um, if somebody offered me a company, I'm going to, say, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
paid six figures for this business in cash,
Mm-hmm.
um, so this wasn't, I did have to think it through, but those things I considered, okay, well, you already know the company, you already know the clientele. Um, the owner and I worked out an agreement where she would stay on board to help me transition, so there wouldn't be, she was here one day and gone the next, because again,
Right.
people are attached to the owner and ownership. And then it took me a while, I would say probably a good maybe probably 18 months to 2 years to really get the confidence where I felt like it was my own, you know.
Mm.
And to be honest, just until I even did it in this my introduction, I still say I am the second generation owner, or it's been open for 20 years, but I owned it for 11. I still do it. Part of it, I think, is a confidence issue. But I think more importantly, it's important for me to remember that I'm carrying on someone else's legacy. They
Yeah.
trusted me with this legacy. And so yeah, I mean, it took some time. And so I started with changing the paint color was the first thing I did, because I didn't want it to look like the old. I changed the logo a little bit. I changed the slogans a little bit. I updated the service menu. So I did things to kind of make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then people began to, um, really see me in leadership, and really, to be quite honest, acknowledge what I've accomplished, and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledged what fundamentals meant to them. And I knew that I was far enough removed from the previous owner that this was me. It was me and my team, my staff, building something greater for the community, and just being of a greater service at another level. And so But it was a transition. It was difficult for me to just, because you never want to piss on the person who gave you this great opportunity.
Yep.
And I would never do that because she didn't have to trust me with her legacy. She could have just said, okay, well, fundamentals is done with. But what she said when she offered it to me, she says, it's too important to the community for me to shut it down. So I want to carry it on. And so even in the times where I felt like, okay, I'm done, I'm walking out, I always remember, what does this mean to the Black community? And what does it mean to women at large to have a place where they can go and they can escape? And so I don't think fundamentals would ever close. There may be a third generation owner, it may go on to someone else at some point, but right now we're here to stay.
Well, I want to talk about too, so as you're developing this and you're building this and you're gaining the confidence around being a leader in that capacity at Fundamentals, at some point you've transitioned now into building other things,
Sure.
right? And growing other things. So talk about that a little bit. When did you start feeling like you kind of got your foundation there, your footing there, and you felt ready to spread your wings even further?
Yeah. I think that probably happened, it's been about 7 or 8 years ago, when people started asking me how I did, what I've done, how I've accomplished the things. And I like to help people. And I needed to do something with this other skill set. When I purchased Fundamentals, my goal was to own the company. I never wanted to work day-to-day operations. I just wanted to own the business again. So I thought it was just going to be that easy. So there's always been this drive and determination to do more and to help more people. And I know that when I started, it was a struggle for me to learn how to market and to brand. And I started, like I said, when I started, none of this internet stuff existed, and it was just none of that. So I hired a coach day one. And I knew that one of the issues with the previous owner is that she didn't have any marketing experience. And that was her area, that was her hiccup, was that knowing how to market and make the business grow. So I didn't want to go into the business with that same issue. So I hired a consultant and a coach. And so working with her is how I learned to market online, and kind of grow my set in that area. And the moment I began to regurgitate the information like her, and my coach said, "You sound just like me," is when I knew I had something. And so I began to transition just by helping other entrepreneurs, just with small tasks, getting operations together the same way I helped the previous owner of Fundamentals. I didn't really realize the connection until I just said it. I started with saying, okay, well, what can I do to make you better? And I have a heart and passion for women, because I think that we juggle so many different things that there's a lot of times we put our dreams and our hopes aside to accomplish things for other people, to take care of our families. And we end up working for other people when we may be called to be an entrepreneur. So it was really birthed out of my desire to help other people grow and have the same success that I've had.
Nice.
So you were number 2, right? And the majority of business you were in, even starting out with Fundamentals. And you said something that caught my attention. You had the transition into not only ownership, but the thinking of being a number 1, right? And that's something a lot of people struggle with, right? How to go from the number 2 in the way you're thinking, the way you conduct yourself, the way you operate and manage yourself, to becoming a number 1. And I personally don't think everyone can do it. I think at certain, like you said, you need to take on a coach, or maybe you need to take on someone to be that number 1 sometimes. And that's a tough hurdle for a lot of entrepreneurs to get over. They got to get over themselves and realize, I'm just not a number 1, and it's all good, right? But you didn't have that luxury. You had to become a number 1. So, right. What is the thinking? What changed? in terms of your daily modus operandi, the things that you think about, the way you kind of organize yourself, how did you make that transition?
Mm. Um, I think the first way I made the transition was I realized I had to pay all the bills. So like, that wakes everything up when you realize that you're responsible for feeding your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started looking at numbers and metrics. I started with looking at long-term strategy versus day-to-day operations, because as an operations manager, I'm responsible for day-to-day operations. As an owner CEO, I'm responsible for long-term strategy and making sure that the business lasts for the lifetime of the business. So that was a transition. Understanding hiring for longevity, hiring strategically for growth versus hiring a person because I like them, and that was also an area where I realized that I wasn't qualified to hire, because everybody I hired, they were crazy, all of them. So I realized at some point you don't know how to hire the right people. And so I found a colleague who worked in HR. I brought her in as a day consultant, and she hired my best employees because I didn't know how to do that. Even though I had worked for other companies in that capacity, it didn't work for me. So knowing my strengths and my weaknesses, and understanding that I can hire and put people in those places where I'm not as strong, was a shift for me as well. Because again, as a number two, you don't have to do that. You don't have to think for yourself and other people. So yeah.
I like it. I like it. So you touched on the next question I was going to ask, and I'm going to ask you to delve a little bit more, right? Okay. Because, here we talk about this all the time. People watch these YouTube channels, they watch these Facebook videos, blah, blah, and it looks like, you become an entrepreneur, it solves all your problems, and money just rains from the sky like manna, right? Let's go do it. It's not the case. Juice work to squeeze, but you're going to get squeezed, right? So what are some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome, right, in terms of making that transition and operating and sustaining a business that's going to operate indefinitely, right? Now that you're the CEO, what are some of the biggest challenges you had to deal with? You mentioned hiring being one of them. What are some of the other challenges you think entrepreneurs may overlook from time to time that they should be aware of?
Wow. Well, I think where we are as a country coming out of 2020, it shows you that you never know, when some type of a big hit is going to come where it's going to shake your business financially. And fortunately, I bought my business in 2008, right at the beginning of the recession. Yeah. So, but I was able to thrive in the midst of the recession because I had a coach. And I hired my coach because she had some business failures and bumped her head a couple times. So she was able to help me navigate through those difficult times. So when 2020 hit, I was like, oh, I got this. I've been here before, and I called the same coach and I was like, so I said, so what do I need to do? And I ran down and said, okay, this is what I planned for. I already have money saved. I'm contacting my utility companies and my landlord. So I'm doing all these things, checking all the boxes, reached out to customers. So I'm giving her a list of things I do. She's like, okay, so why did you call me? So I think having a plan, trying your best to plan for your future. I think a lot of times entrepreneurs don't do that. We're living in the moment because we're so excited that we own a business. We just don't know what to do with ourselves, Yep. And and you're looking for help in the wrong places. You're looking at YouTube, but however, you don't know if you're going to YouTube or if you're going randomly on Facebook and finding a coach or consultant, you really don't know their track record.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important to connect yourself with people who have been there and done that. Um, I think that there is so much value in having wise counsel. And so I think that, that's important. Um, so first, having some type of a long-term financial strategy or plan. Two, having a coach or consultant, or even if it's a mastermind of other entrepreneurs that you can bounce ideas off of. I think those three things are important. And entrepreneurs miss that because really, true entrepreneurship is, you want to build something, a legacy for your family. And in order to do that, you need a company, not just on paper, but you
Mm-hmm.
need a company that's profitable. Preferably, you need to have a team that's working for you and alongside you versus you having to go in day to day and punch a clock like a job.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people approach entrepreneurship like it's a job, and you've technically just created a glorified hobby and job for yourself. You're not truly an entrepreneur. And so I think building a solid foundation like you are a company um, is huge. And oftentimes I ask myself when I'm trying to make a decision, okay, if I was running Apple, would I do this? Is Steve Jobs sitting around wondering if there's toilet paper in the bathroom? I mean, so I kind of take myself out of the equation and say, okay, if you're building this company and you're calling yourself a CEO, let's act like one and make decisions on a higher level and stop operating like you are the janitor and the receptionist and all those roles that we have a tendency to play because we have to. And that's, and everybody has to start somewhere. But I also think that we need to push ourselves to do better.
Yes.
And to do more.
All right. That's one of the reasons, as you know, that I wanted to have you here as a guest, right? Because the pandemic has wiped a lot of folks out. Um, People aren't going to be opening doors again. And you hit something earlier that I just couldn't resist. I wanted to touch it again because we've seen so many entrepreneurs and business owners. I mean, what breaks my heart is some of these entrepreneurs and business owners were icons. They were like staples in the community, right? And you kind of touched on something indirectly, and that is the value of having literal operations and things and a foundation in place for business succession planning, right? You literally are a living embodiment of what a business succession plan looks like. And so few entrepreneurs, I mean, it doesn't even circulate through their mind, right?
Yeah.
And so 2020 hits them, and whether they've been in business for 5 years, 20 years, or 2 minutes, they're completely blindsided and wiped off the playing field. And I love the fact that you can speak to what are the things that are required to survive situations like that, right? When you think about some of the biggest successes you've had, some of the biggest triumphs you've had, and once again, I mean, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, you provide so much wisdom. But when you think about some of the business successes that you had, aside from obviously hiring a coach, right, which was huge, what are some of the other steps you've taken? What are some of the other habits you've inculcated to help you achieve and continue to transcend and continue to move the ball forward? What are some other habits or practices or strategies you've employed to transition through this pandemic, but also just period?
That's an interesting question because I'm not very habitual. So that's interesting. I'm a creative, so I'm not really, but I do try to, I try to read, I'm not a big systematic reader, but I do try to, to delve into some business books, and read articles and that type of thing. I try to keep my mind fresh and current. Habitually, I've learned to manage my time better than I used to, because I run 2 companies and I'm a consultant on a third. So I have to juggle, and I work part-time in ministry. So I have a lot of hats to wear. And so I've learned to manage my time in a way that affords me the opportunity to do all of them and to do all of them well and to play as well. I like to have that balance where I'm not working all the time and I have the opportunity to relax a little bit. So, and I built that as a lifestyle because I didn't want to work extra hard and burn myself out. And so that has been a definite transition for me. My mother had was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Well, she's passed on, but when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, I have two sisters, and I was the one that was able to care for my mother because I'm self-employed. And but in that transition, I realized that I needed to build my business differently so I could give full-time care to my mother. And so I began to shift the way I operate my day-to-day operations in my business and my personal life in order to be able to do those things. So I think habitually making sure that I do self-care, making sure that I spend time with my friends, making sure that my mother had me when she needed me. That's probably been my biggest shift, is really time management, and of course managing my finances in a way to make sure that I am covering things in my household and in my business. I think those be my biggest shifts.
I like it.
I think that also speaks, it always circles back around to this idea that you talked about of you have to have these solid foundations. You have to have this leadership mindset. You cannot just be working a 9-to-5 mindset as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And so you've delved in a little bit, but I kind of want to talk about when you're thinking of, and a lot of that has to do with not just systems in place, but people in place, right? The right team members. And you did talk about how you had brought someone in to help you hire some of these right people and whatnot too. But what is it, something that you can share with our audience that, as a seasoned entrepreneur who's hired people, right? Who's figured out what a team sort of needs to look like for yourself, right? What are some of the important aspects that you see? Like, we have a lot of solopreneurs, right, that listen to this, that probably need to be hiring a team, right, at some point or whatnot. What are some of those first steps you had to think through or take of what makes a valuable team member to you?
Well, what used to make a valuable team member to me was I had to like you. Like, I had to actually like you. I got over that. I don't have to like you. I need you to do a job.
Yeah.
And so when I was hiring, again, I'm a woman and I'm a creative. So I hire for a feeling like, oh, I feel like she's gonna, that's not it. So I think that the first thing really is understanding that you're hiring for a particular job and that person needs to have a particular skill set. They're not your friend. They are your colleague. They're your team member. They're someone that you want to support you, but they don't have to necessarily be, your friend. For me, it's important to really be open and honest with my team members about where we are as a company so they can buy into the vision. Oftentimes, again, companies don't have visions for moving forward because they really are solopreneurs, but you still have, you started this business for a reason. And so there's still something in you that's making you want to get up every day and do it. But it started with me writing out my vision and understanding where I'm trying to take my companies and what key people I need. So I think having something for the employees or your team members to buy into, even if it's a virtual assistant, you have to be able to explain where you're going and how they fit into the big picture, because people want to know that they matter. And so I think that's key, them fitting into the big picture. And then that also breeds loyalty, if they know that they are connected to your success. I have been so fortunate to have some amazing team members. And to this day, I can call any of them back that have gone on and say, hey, I need you, and they'll come back. I have created an environment where I understand that people have dreams that are bigger than working for me or supporting me or being along my side. So I allow them to do things on the side without feeling like you're competing, with me or against me. And so that freedom has connected people to me long term. Um, I believe that kindness goes a long way. Sympathy and empathy goes a long way. So making sure that you really are connecting with the people that you're hiring on a sincere level, um, so that you all can grow together has been really key for me as well. Um, because again, as far as qualities in a team member, that will vary based on what you need, what job you need fulfilled, and what meshes with your organization. Like Google's culture is totally different from Saks Fifth Avenue.
Right.
So team members and qualities will vary based on your organization and your culture, but you also have to know what that is.
Mhm.
So if your organization is a fun bouncing balls down the hallway like Google, then you wouldn't want to hire someone who's coming in with a staunch, personality. So you also have to know the culture and vibe of your organization so you can hire to those, to that, so they can be a good fit.
That is wow. Once again, I got to unpack this a little bit because you share once again some huge nuggets. This whole vision planning or purpose and mission planning and making sure people understand,
Mhm.
basically creating that connective tissue,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, in my humble experience, 90% of business owners don't do that. If you were
Right.
to ask them, what is your niche? What is your purpose? What is your mission? Beyond we do this to earn income, they can't tell you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, what did that process look like for you? Because a lot of business owners don't even know how to begin that process. I think that's the other issue too. They don't even know like what that process looks like in
Looks
terms of
like.
defining, the mission and creating that connectivity and creating a vision for their business. What did
Hmm.
that process look like?
Um, it took some deep soul searching,
Mm-hmm.
really, to determine your why. You hear it all the time. Like, why do I exist? What problem am I solving in the community? How am I helping? It just really took some deep rooted soul searching. Um, and again, getting it down on paper. And um, I think it was important to have that go through that process because you want to make sure what you're doing is providing value for your customer and more importantly for you. And once I realized that I have a calling to help women, this is
Mm,
not something that I just decided to do. I was created on this planet to help women.
mm,
And, um, but it took other people reflecting that back to me and saying, okay, well, when I need this, I go to Katrina for this. Or I remember when you were a little girl and you did this, so it took people reflecting it back to me to say, oh, okay, well, this is really what I was created to do. And so once I accepted that and bought into that and said, okay, God, I surrender. I'm here to help these women. Um, Now, how do you want me to do that? And I wrote it out. I brainstormed. I call it a brain dump. You put it all on paper, you figure out where it goes, and then I owned it. And I said, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how my path went from me making gift baskets to owning a spa, you know, um, and how it all kind of goes together. But I needed to see it on paper. And then once I was able to do that, again, I was able to explain it to other people and had people support and buy into it. Um, but it really was an exercise of saying, this is what makes me tick. This is what
mm,
lights me up. This is what I enjoy. And this is why I'm creating this company that can bring this type of joy again to the customer and to myself. And I think that was the turning point where I said, okay, this is an extension of me.
mm,
And um, I think that that's really key for entrepreneurs, is having a business that's an extension of them. I was speaking with an entrepreneur on Monday, and she was starting a company, and I said, so are you passionate about this? And she says, well, what exactly do you mean by passionate? And I'm thinking, well, when
Mm-hmm.
does passionate have a different definition? You know what passionate means. But I said, is this what lights you up? Do you wake up in the middle of the night with ideas? Can you not sleep because you're trying to figure out the next big thing in your industry? Um, and she couldn't really answer the question. And I said, okay, so you started this company because you want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But like you said, if that's the case, then maybe you're not the one to be the number one. Maybe you are the number two, because there's a level of passion and drive that you have to be the number one. You can't just do it for money, because there's plenty of times where you won't have any.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? So when the checks dry up, then what? Because if money is your only motivation, you're never going to make it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're a fascinating blend of creativity and operations. Most people don't have both. It's usually one or the other, right?
Right.
So I can hear the creative side in terms of uncovering your why and curating that extension. But now, how do we pass that why? How did you incorporate your staff into it? What did that process look like? Right. So you define your why, you define your purpose, you get someone to help you out with the hiring. So you're putting the right people in the right seats, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you create that connective tissue? How did you get the buy-in? What did that look like?
Um, Weekly meetings. We had weekly staff meetings to start
Mm-hmm.
when I first started. I carried them, with me along the path. Like, again, fortunately, because I bought an existing brand, my staff was able to see me in the journey, and they were able to walk with me in the journey. The new staff that comes on board, I take them through an orientation process
Mm-hmm.
to get the buy-in. I also, again, in the orientation process, ask them, what can I do to serve you?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see you going in the future? What's your end game, and how can I help you to get there? I may know someone. It may be something you can learn from me. I'm not intimidated by helping others. And so
Right.
I think it's easy. It, I think that's probably my secret sauce for buy-in, because when you sit down in a 9 to 5, I'm like, okay, so how can I help you move on and leave me? But that's really my thing, is like, how can I help you grow?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and either we can grow alongside each other, or we can grow apart. But I understand that sometimes, people are just in your life for a season. And
Yeah.
so, but getting that buy-in really came from effective communication, not being afraid to have the highs and lows of business, and discussing that and making sure that they knew that I needed their support. And when I needed help and support from them, um, I did my best to have those conversations. Sometimes, it's difficult to have hard conversations with people. But I tried to be transparent along the way. So when it was time to have a hard conversation, I've already softened the ground where we can have difficult conversations. Um, and um, and just being honest with where we are as a company, and celebrating our successes and celebrating our highs and lows together really helps to get that buy-in, and holding the team members accountable for their contribution to the organization is important. Um, and again, that's whether it is a part-time employee, whether it's a contract employee, making sure that they know that they're valued, and that they're bringing value to the table, and then you're holding them to accountability if they're not doing what they said they were going to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all contributed to that buy-in of the vision and the organization.
I love it. I love it.
So as you're, holding true to this vision, you're holding true to your why, you're building everything up, and we've talked about a lot of the ups and downs, right? What keeps you motivated? Where do you keep drawing inspiration from to hold that vision true, to keep nurturing that?
Hmm. Um, I think really what keeps me motivated is the fact that I don't want a job. I don't want to work for anybody else.
Yeah.
I like being an entrepreneur. You know, I
Mhm.
love the freedom that comes from being an entrepreneur. And the moment that I feel like that's being taken from me, I got to get myself together and get it together. You know, um, I think that looking at the successes of other entrepreneurs is really helps motivate me. I now am at the point where I have mentees who are looking to me for inspiration and guidance, and you know, and they're millennials. They're looking to me as their mentor, and these are phenomenal young women. And and I'm like, wait, you know, you want me to mentor you? I need to step up my game because you are the GOAT, you know, for your generation, and you're looking to me. So that really motivates me to push and to grow and to keep going, because now I have a generation that's looking to me as their example. And so that really that motivates me for sure, to make sure that um again, that I'm carrying, you know, carrying forward um something to be admired by another generation. And then I think um the other thing that motivates me is I really want to leave a legacy. You know, I don't have any children, but I have a niece and I have nephews, and I want to be able to leave something for them to enjoy while I'm here, um, and then to enjoy after I'm gone. Um, and that legacy piece really came um, when people started asking me to mentor them, and I said, okay, if I don't have biological children, there's still a generation that can learn from me, and I
Mhm.
need to be able to leave them something, and I want to be able to deposit into them. And I feel that with this generation of new entrepreneurs, that foundation is missing in so many different ways. The operations foundation is missing, the sound wisdom is missing, because they're finding things in different ways. They don't really sit down and have face-to-face conversations anymore with
Mm.
you know. And so I think having that gap in the marketplace, so to speak, I feel that it's important for me to feel that. So that wakes me up every morning and motivates me to keep going, to keep pushing, because I know that there's people out here who need what I have to offer. And so, um, yeah, so I get up every day, and I do it, like I said, to swing back around, because I don't want to work for nobody else. So the alternative is you go and get a job, and we're not doing that. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I get up every day to just really experience this roller coaster of entrepreneurship and the freedom that it provides.
What do you believe is the thing that entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs get wrong, right? What is the thing that you believe that about the nature of the work that you do and all the different capacities that you work in that you want to elaborate upon, that you want people to know about your work, your impact? What is it that people have misconceptions about that you feel like needs to be cleared up in your industry or just period?
The number one thing that entrepreneurs get wrong is they do not have a plan.
Mhm.
Um, they have an idea, but there's no structure, there's no step by step, there's no, you know, there's just no plan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we kind of dismiss the um, power of having a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having just a high level outside of your mission and your vision, you know, you can't accept payments through Cash App. You can't start a business selling cupcakes and then someone says, how do you deliver the cupcakes? And they're like, oh, I'll drop them off to you in a Walmart parking lot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we got to stop doing that, you know? So I think that really is it. It's a lack of planning. Um, and that really is what drives my coaching and consulting, is that I want people to build businesses that will last. You know, we're such creative people. We all have different skills and giftings and abilities, and Many of them can be monetized, but we don't know how to do it. And and if we start it, we don't have any long-term strategy to sustain it because we build it based on our own sole efforts. And
Mm-hmm.
so I believe that with that plan, then you also have to have a long-term strategy for growth. And those are the two things, is that you get caught when you build a business. You are mostly a solo entrepreneur. And so you're starting it with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I'm starting it, but I can't grow and take on additional business because I only have 24 hours in a day. You take out your sleeping. So I'm working with an 8 to 6 hour window. So there's only so many clients you can fit within that time based on your own personal efforts. And then you get an opportunity to grow, but you don't have a strategy for growth. And so I think those are two things that 99% of the new entrepreneurs get wrong, is they start a business based on their own sole single efforts and do not think about any other thing that anybody else that they need to help them grow, because they're thinking about the moment. And so again, having that plan and then a long-term strategy for growth are the two biggest mistakes I see.
I like it. I like it. Well, we end these on a high note, right? Bring a little bit of mirth into the picture, if you will. And so there are two questions that we typically ask entrepreneurs to when we're wrapping up. And the first question is, what's your spirit animal? Right? That's one of them. You can pick and choose. Or what's your superpower? Right? What is your superpower? What is that value prop? What is the thing that makes you unique and special? What's that special contribution, your unique contribution to the world? What is it?
Mm. Um, my unique contribution is I bring peace and order to the world. Um, it's a running joke in my house that my house is the place where people come to sleep. A couple of weeks ago, my friend came over and she was like, "It feels like when I'm walking into your house, like I'm walking into a house that gives you a hug." And I believe that my superpower is to bring peace and order. That has been my mode of operating since I was born. I tease my family and I say that I'm the youngest of three girls, but I'm the baby. But it's 14 years between me and my sister. And I told them when I was born, it was all chaotic until I came and just calmed everything down because they were what they were doing before I got there. And so I think that's it, and it's been a consistent throughout my journey and my career. It shows up in my coaching and consulting business. I strive to bring entrepreneurs peace in their business. I try to make sure that they have order and make sure they're doing things that they love and they enjoy, and it's profitable for them. And then on the spa side, of course, we provide inner peace and outer beauty, and I think that's important to make sure that we really are living the lifestyles of our dreams. And I think that's why I was uniquely created.
I love it.
The second question we ask is, and it's another way to leave on a high note is, and we talked about so much in this past hour, and you gave us so many amazing golden nuggets of wisdom here. But if you could leave our audience and entrepreneurs that are listening with one very important lesson or tidbit that you want to share, what would that be?
Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Just because you're a solo entrepreneur doesn't mean that you're alone. Mm-hmm. That there are plenty of people who are willing to help you. And don't be afraid to pay for what you need. While there is free information out here, but you want to make sure that you financially sow into where you want to go.
Mm.
So if there is a person, a mentor, a coach, a consultant that you need to help you go to the next level, pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, then more than likely it won't be of value to you. So I would end with saying, don't be afraid to invest in yourself so you can grow.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap up here, but before we do, Katrina, let people know, how can they reach out to you, connect with you, learn more about you, if they want to keep this conversation going with you even after?
Of course. You can find me on social media. My Facebook is Katrina Michele Creative. My personal Facebook is Katrina Michele Mitchell. I am on Instagram as Katrina Michelle as well. And then my website is katrinamichelle.com, and that's Katrina Michelle with one L.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Katrina. And everyone watching, please share this, listen to it again. This is one to repeat. Take your notes and then take them again. But other than that, we will see you all soon. Thank